Hey everyone, this is Fiddle Hugger AJ Raven. I'm here with my recap and review of a new show over on HBO called The Gilded Age, which is by Julian Fellows, who is behind the very enjoyable Downton Abbey series. And Downton Abbey 2, the movie, is coming out, and of course I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, coming back to the premiere of Gilded Age season number 1, it was a lengthy premiere. I think it was like 1 hour, 20 or 30 minutes long. It was long. So it's going to take me a while to fully cover it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Anyway, it opens up with a scene in New York. It's 1882, and basically, if it's possible, there could be a crossover between Downton Abbey and Gilded Age, but let's see what happens. So anyway, some stuff is being transported to New York. And we get to see the Van Rhijn house. Also, the names. Yeah, there are a whole lot of characters introduced, a whole lot of new names for me to remember. So if I mess up the names, I apologize. So anyway, the new people that are going to that are arriving in New York are basically the Russells, and they ended up having built a new house, or maybe they renovated, and I'm not really sure. I think it took them 3 years to do all of the renovations, or maybe they constructed a new house from scratch. I'm not really sure. But anyway, they are living across the Van Rhijn house, and over the Van Rhijn house, the downstairs help is this guy, and I think his name is Bannister. And yeah, this is the house that's being built. We have the scaffolding over here and everything. So their stuff is being transported, delivered to the new house. And of course, everyone is excited, kind of excited about the new arrivals, because the basic issue in Gilded Age has to do with new money versus old money. The old guard doesn't necessarily want to be friendly with the new people, especially because they don't trust the money that the new people are getting, because apparently they don't come from legacy families. They ended up being rich like only during their current generation, or maybe the generation before them. So the old guard doesn't trust that money, and they don't trust their upbringing. So the people over at the Van Rhijn house are two sisters. We have Agnes Van Rhijn and her sister Ada Van Rhijn. I think it's pronounced Van Rhijn, right? Or it's Rhijn, Van Rhijn. So yeah, she is looking at the house across the street from her, but she has her apprehensions about it. So a letter is delivered, and the cook is like, "Why don't you let someone else take it for you?" Bannister is like, "No, I'll do it myself." So basically, the letter is telling the aunts about their niece. It's from their niece, and yeah, the niece is played by one of Meryl Streep's daughter. Her name is Miriam Brooke. Yeah, I guess that's her name, right? Yeah, Marian Brooks. So the names. Yeah, it's going to take me a name. It's going to take me a while to get all of the names right, because I'm very, very bad at names. So apparently her dad died. However, the issue is that her dad didn't leave her anything, even the house that she's living in. It was rented. So the lawyer, Mr. Rikes, is talking to Marian about her options, and she just can't keep on staying here, and rent is due by the end of the month as well. So Marian has to figure out something. Now she has the two aunts over in New York, Agnes and Ada. However, they weren't very friendly because they didn't get along well with her father, and I don't ever think that she has ever met her aunts. But anyway, she has no other option but to go to New York and hopefully get to stay with her aunts. And that's the letter that Agnes received, and she's like, "Yep, Marian is coming over." And Ada is very happy because she's like, "You know what? I actually ended up sending a letter to Marian that she should come over, and I wanted to stay in contact with her. She's our niece after all." But Agnes is like, she's possibly coming here because she now has realized that her father left her nothing, and now she's like, I guess she's going to come here for help. And Ada is like, "Well, what's wrong with that? We are our only living family, so let her come." And then we cut to Bertha. She is Mrs. Russell, and yeah, she is going to be the lady of this house, and she's come with the architect. I think his name is Mr. White, and yeah, you can tell that she is very, very happy with the work that Mr. White did, and she's looking forward to introducing her family to the rest of the people that are living there. And the house, it's quite extravagant, so you can see that the Russells have a money, and they have a lot of money that they can actually spend and still be rich. So yeah, she is happy and she is like, "Yep, I'm looking forward to meeting everyone. I'm going to invite everyone." And I'm like, it's not going to work out the way that you think." And I'm looking forward to seeing how Bertha is able to connect with the rest of the family, well-off families around her, if even that's impossible. So this is Mr. Russell, her George Russell, yeah, and he is smoking a cigar, and Bertha is like, well, I don't like you doing this here, and Russell is like, well, I'll smoke a cigar wherever I want to because it's my house, and yeah, both of them are very happy and they're looking forward to meeting the other people, and he is like, are you ready for that? And Bertha is like, yeah, I'm ready. So apparently these two have been living somewhere else for 3 years now, and they finally ended up moving into this house because Bertha is the type of woman who wants to continue climbing the social ladder. She wants to be respected. She wants to be well liked by others. And Russell is like, you know what, Bertha? Let's see if that's even possible, because even Bertha knows that the old guard is very, very how is very, very cold when it comes to the new people, and she's like, you know what? But I will make them like me. Then we cut to Mr. Russell going to his office, which is basically the Russell Consolidated Trust. He's into making railways and all of that stuff, and he is not above doing something bad or digging dirt on his opponents in order to get what he wants. He's basically like what, a beggar baron, or not beggar baron, my bad, a burglar baron of some sort. And yeah, these two are talking about the people that they need to get the vote of, because in order to keep on making new railway stations and railway tracks, they need permits and permissions. Then we cut to Marian, and yeah, it's time for her to move to New York. Mr. Reichs is like, "Will you be okay?" And she's like, "Yep." And he's like, "Can I write to you?" And Marian is like, "Well, I don't think you should." But he's like, "Oh, I meant that if something comes up about your father's business and all of that stuff." And Marian is like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So basically, Mr. Reichs is flirting with her, but she has other things on her plate. So as she's waiting, she ends up meeting this girl, this young woman called Peggy. Peggy Smith, I guess? Or is it Scott? I think it's Scott. So Peggy Scott, and these two have a little chit chat. And as they're talking, these two men are fighting, and yeah, the altercation ends up pushing Marian onto Peggy, and she ends up ripping Peggy's skirt, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for this." And Peggy is like, it's okay, it doesn't matter." And she's like, "Yeah, I'll go to my arms and I'll get you the money that's owed to you." The train arrives, and yeah, during the fight, it turns out that she misplaced her purse, and I guess one of the men ended up stealing her purse, and the ticket was in her purse. So Marian can't get back on the train, and Peggy tries to help her. Peggy is like, "Can't you just go back home?" And Marian is like, "Well, I don't have a home right now." And this is where Peggy is like, "Yep, I have to help this woman. I have to help this woman." So she ends up inviting Marian to sit with her, and I'm like, okay, so the Gilded Age is going to talk about relations and racism and all of that stuff going on during that time in the US, which is something different because we didn't get to see a lot of that in the Downton Abbey franchise. But then again, this isn't the type of, like, we know that when it comes to Julian Fellowes' show in the vein of Downton Abbey, they aren't necessarily the most hard hitting when it comes to talking about race relationships and other serious topics. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Julian Fellowes ends up handling the race stuff with Peggy and Marian and other people. Oh, also, as they're talking during the ride, yeah, Marian is like, "Hey, my aunts are good for the money, and when you go to New York, I think, yeah, Peggy is going to Brooklyn, and she's like, when you get settled down, please send for me, and I'll have the envelope of the money that I owe you." And Peggy's like, "Okay, thank you." Then we get to see Larry, and Larry is Bertha and George's oldest son, and I think he just came back from university, and he's now going to be sent out for some social interactions and making friends, and he ends up mentioning Miss Astor, and Bertha is like, "Oh, so you know Miss Astor, huh? And we need Miss Astor in order to be welcome into the old society of rich people, so I want you to go out there and name drop us and start getting to know her." And you can tell that when it comes to raising her children, Bertha is kind of strict. She's quite strict. So Peggy and Miriam end up at the ports, and yeah, they're going to take the ferry down to New York, and yeah, they're quite excited about the life that's going. Well, not necessarily Miriam. Miriam is like, I guess this is my life now. But Peggy has an excitement inside of her, and she also tells Miriam that apparently she's here for a new beginning, and there was nothing back there for her, and they're like, okay, let's do this. So both of these women going on a journey which will be basic. Yeah, both of their journeys will be very, very different as the show progresses, as far as I can tell. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So everyone is sitting down for dinner, and this is where Bertha is like, you know what? I'm ready to invite the people. I'm going to throw a party and all of that stuff. And yeah, basically they're talking about how things are changing quite fast, and more people are getting richer and making a name for themselves, even though they don't come from legacy families. And Bertha is like, well, things aren't changing fast enough for me yet. So it's raining, and Marian is ready to go to her aunt's house, but she notices that Peggy is waiting to walk, I guess, when it stops raining. And Marian is like, "Well, I can't leave you alone over here. So why don't I give you a trip to? Why don't I give you the ride to the Brooklyn ferry?" Not the or is it a ferry station? I'm not really sure. But yeah, she's like, let me at least give you a ride to the station. And Peggy is like, okay, I appreciate that. However, the carriage person is like, no, nothing is basically working because of the rain. And this is where Marian is like, well, I can't leave you alone. So why don't you come over to my aunt's house, and then we'll figure out where you can go in the morning. And Peggy is like, okay, I guess. So they reach the Van Rhijn house, and the help is there to meet them. And she's like, Miriam is like, "Are my aunts upstairs?" They're like, "Yup." And Peggy is taken downstairs until Miriam ends up telling her aunts about Peggy. And her aunts are like, okay, we are glad that you made your way over here, Miriam, and we are very glad that you ended up finding a young woman who could help you out like this. So I. Agnes is like, I would like to meet her, and Miriam is asked, Peggy is asked to come upstairs to meet Miriam's aunts, and they thank her for helping their niece, and they're also like, you know what, we can't just send you over, you will be staying the night, right? So I need you to write down the address of your parents so that I can inform them if something happens. Once Peggy has written down the address of her parents, this is where Agnes is like, where did you learn to write like this? And yeah, she ended up learning this from an institute over in Philadelphia, which turns out that Agnes and Ada's dad's father was a patron over there, and they used to go there to attend the yearly pageants. And Peggy was like, yeah, I was part of those pageants. So yeah, Ada and Agnes are very, very warm towards Peggy, and they like her, and they're like, you know what, you can stay here, yeah. And Bannister is told to ask one of the help downstairs to show Peggy to her rooms. And then the two aunts end up talking about their brother to Miriam, and Miriam is like, you know what, I don't want you talking ill about my father in front of me. And Agnes is like, well, it's my house, I will talk however I please. And Miriam is like, well, not in front of me. And you can tell that Miriam has a fire inside of her, and she is going to stand up to Agnes at least. And I'm looking forward to the conflict that will give rise to. And this is where Miriam is like, well, I have a plan. I would like to work as a governess or something. And they're like, what, really, as a governess? No, you can't do that. And then Miriam is like, okay, then I'll do charity work. And Ada is like, yeah, we can surely figure out something for you to do. And then this is also where Agnes really tells Miriam that, you know what, always remember, Miriam, that you're part of old New York. You're not New York. We don't mix with New York. You're always the old, never the new. And that's where the title of the episode came from. So Peggy is being shown to her room, and yeah, she's, I guess she's kind of okay over there, but she can also notice that there's some sort of issues going on as far as the help is concerned when it comes to her, which again, race relations and all of that stuff. Let's see how all of it is handled in this episode, because one of the ladies, I think that she is the one who governs how the rest of the help works, and she's like, you know what, I think that something is happening. with the help. It's not like they have anything against Peggy. It's not that Peggy is going to cause the problem, but maybe she is the problem. She is the cause of a problem, and something to that effect. And they are a bit on guard when it comes to Peggy, because of course there are certain racial undertones going on there, and Bannister is like, you know what, it's not her place to my bad. Ugh. Yeah, Bannister is like, well, it's not our place to have an opinion, so you will treat Miss Peggy as you would treat any guest of the Van Ryens. Because from what I remember, the people, one of the young girls who I think helps out in the kitchen, she doesn't like the fact that Peggy is here, because as far as she's concerned, it's as if Peggy is here to steal their jobs, which again relates to certain people thinking that other people, people of color, especially from the African American community and the Latino community, they come over here and steal their jobs and all of that stuff. And even the Asian community, people from the Asian community stealing jobs, and yeah, it's a serious conversation, which again I'm not really sure if the Gilded Age can probably handle it. So it's the next day, and Agnes is talking about how she has a whole lot of letters to write, and she just doesn't have the time. And yeah, this is where Peggy is like, you know what, I can help you out, because she will need to stay here for a few more days, because the ferry docks ended up being damaged during the storm. And Agnes is like, you know what, you do have good penmanship, and you did tell me that you could be dictated to, so I'm going to hire you as a secretary, and you will live here. Which, you know what, good for Peggy. This is where Bertha gets a letter from Mrs. Fence. I think that's her name, Mrs. Fence or Faye or something. But she basically runs a charity, and they invited Mrs. Russell to attend the charity. And Mrs. Russell is like, you know what, this is my way in. But Russell does warn her, and he's like, you know what, they are after your money. And Bertha is like, so what? So what? It's basically a cost for us to go in there. And she's willing to go. And Russell is like, you know what, take Gladys with you, their young daughter. So Miriam ends up finding Pumpkin, the dog, in her room, and Agnes is like, does that dog really need to be in here? And Miriam is like, yup. And yeah, everyone talks about what they're going to do next, and what Miriam and Peggy are planning. And this is where she tells Miriam that Peggy will be staying here for a bit longer as her secretary and all of that stuff. And Miriam is like, but I thought you did. Oh, also, Agnes is like, you know what, with the fact that you are going to be staying here, I need you to go and contact your mother or your parents and tell them where you are. And Peggy is like, yeah, I can do that. And Miriam is like, I thought you didn't want to be in contact with your parents. And Peggy is like, well, it's basically that I don't want to be in contact with my father. I'm okay with my mother. And we do see her talking to her mother in this episode. And after Peggy leaves, this is where Agnes hands the invitation for the charity to Miriam, and she's like, you know what, because the charity needs our money, we will be giving them our money, of course, but they will also be happy with having our niece over there, lending a hand, and it will help you get an idea about the type of society that we move in. So Miriam is like, yeah, I can go with Ada to the charity event. So this is Miss Turner, if I remember her name right. And basically Miss Turner, she doesn't like Mrs. Russell, and I guess she's trying to flirt with Mr. Russell, and I'm like, oh, don't do it. Don't do it, Miss Turner. I don't think that's going to be possible. And even one of the help, I am forgetting his name. Even he's like, tread carefully, Miss Turner. I'm telling you this as a friend. So we cut to Larry, and he's spending time with Miss Fish, Mrs. Fish? I guess her name's Fish, right? But anyway, he's spending time there, and I guess she's trying to hook these two up, Larry and this girl over here. And while they're talking and getting ready to play croquet, this is where Oscar Van Rhijn walks in, and Oscar Van Rhijn is Agnes Van Rhijn's son, who has his own thing going on, which we get to know by the end of the episode. Which I'm again, like Downton Abbey had queer representation, even though it wasn't the best queer representation. Basically, well, it kind of made sense for the time that the show is set in, I could say, even though Thomas Barrow ended up living a very, very sad life. Hopefully, he'll find some more happiness in the upcoming movie. But Oscar has money, he has influence, so let's see how his life turns out. So Peggy ends up meeting her mother, and her mother isn't happy about Peggy not wanting to come home. And she is like, I can give you money, right? And I also brought the clothes that you asked for. And yeah, Peggy is like, I appreciate what you're doing for me, Mom, but I'm just not going back to my dad, even though he thinks that he loves me. I'm just not ready to go back. You don't know what happened. So it's time for the charity event, and Bertha ended up taking her daughter Gladys over there. And of course, no one necessarily knows who Bertha is. They do know that she is from New Money, but they don't know anything else about her. And Miss Faye is trying to make a bit of conversation with her, which doesn't necessarily work well. Anyway, Ada and Miriam come in, and Ada introduces Miriam to the people who run charity. And because these families have known each other for years, and they're also blood related, like someone is someone else's cousin or related to each other somehow, they end up having a good little conversation, and Bertha notices it. Bertha does notice it, that okay, so this is how these people talk to each other, because their families have known each other for generations. And then Miriam is introduced to Bertha and Gladys, and Miriam is like, you know what, I would like to come in and see what's behind those windows. And Bertha is like, of course, whenever you have time, come in. So it's time for everyone to go in and sit. And yeah, this is where Ada is like, you know what, you should not be friendly with Bertha, and Agnes wouldn't like it. And she's like, yeah, but it's basically that they're New Money, and we don't trust New Money this easily. And as the three women are talking, this is where they notice another woman. I'm not really sure who her name. What her name was, but apparently she isn't a good woman to be near. So I guess Miriam will end up interacting with her sooner or later, which I'm looking forward to. So we get to see Russell meeting another person, his competitor, who doesn't who rejected his deal for the railway. And yeah, Russell plays dirty. He really does. And he's like, you know what? If you don't allow me to buy your railway station at the price that I was offering you, I'm going to create another railway track and a station right next to yours, and I'm going to see your railway station flop. Even if it costs me money, I will be saving a whole lot of money down the line. And the person is like, okay, I see what kind of businessman you are, and I don't appreciate it. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing it for the money, so I don't really care what you think. Then we cut to Larry, Oscar, and I think her name is Claire or something. I'm not really sure. But yeah, this is where Oscar tells Larry about his cousin coming over, and he doesn't necessarily know that his cousin is very, very young. He thinks that the cousin is very old, and he's not interested in meeting her one bit. Then we cut to Marian going to talk to Peggy about how she's settling in, and Peggy is like, yeah, it's good. The staff is very friendly. There are like an exception or two, but it's being handled. And yeah, this is where Bertha is like, you know what? I'm going to invite everyone, because I was at the charity event and they were talking about how everyone was interested in seeing the house. So I'm going to throw a party. And Russell is like, okay, dear, do what you want to do. So everyone is talking about how Marian and Ada ended up meeting Gladys and Bertha, and yeah, this young man is very, very interested in Mr. Russell, because as far as he's concerned, the type of people that Mr. Russell is kind of, those type of people are the future, and yeah, he's all about being part of the future. And then we cut to Mr. Russell's kitchen, and everyone is talking about the party, and that they need to prepare themselves for the party and all of that stuff. And Miss Turner isn't do it. Miss Turner is like, you know what, Mrs. Russell is trying to invite people who will never ever be friendly towards her, and I have to remember his name. Let me think. Hmm. Nope, I'm unable to remember his name right now. Basically, he's the person who helps Mr. Russell with wearing clothes and all of that stuff. But anyway, he's like, you know what? You should back off a bit when it comes to the Russells. It will do you good, Miss. Miss Turner. The names. Ugh. But yeah, I guess her name is Miss Turner. I'm not really sure why I groaned. But yeah, it's the next day, and Marian is walking Pumpkin outside, and Pumpkin runs off, and he's about to be hit by a carriage, but Larry comes in to save the day. And yeah, Marian and Larry, I guess they're going to hit off and be a couple, which will allow Marian to be more closer to the New Money, and maybe Bertha will push the relationship because she wants to get in with the old guard. Let's see what happens there. So it's Berta ends up telling Larry and Gladys that they need to be ready for the party and all of that stuff. And then we got to Marian being on a enjoying a carriage ride in the park with her aunts. And yeah, Agnes is like, you know what, the dog should be running alongside the carriage, not be in the carriage. And Marian is like, well, we can make an exception for Pumpkin at least. And then she hands her aunt and the invitation that Mrs. Bannister ended up sending everyone, inviting them over for dinner. And Agnes is like, has she lost her mind? Has she gone mad? I'm not really sure why I tried to do an accent. But yeah, Agnes is like, we aren't going there, right? And Ada's like, okay, suit yourself, sister. So poor Berta ended up visiting every house that she could think of in order to deliver the invites. She even went to Miss Astor, and Miss Astor basically told her one of the help to lie to Berta that she's not home. And yeah, the entire party sequence, the way it ended up it made me feel sad for Berta. So Russell ends up inviting Mr. White to the house as well, because Berta is very impressed by what you did, and other people will be impressed too. So I want you there in order to answer any questions that they might have about the house. And then Oscar arrives at her mom's house, and he meets Peggy, who is now working as Agnes's secretary. And this is also where he ends up meeting Marian, and this is where he realizes that, oh, Marian is a young cousin. I thought that she was going to be an old cousin, and he's kind of smitten by her, which has me thinking. I'm like, is he going to start falling for her as well, even though he has a boyfriend? Maybe. Maybe he's bisexual, or maybe if you're talking about queer people living in that time, maybe he thinks that he can marry Marian in a marriage of convenience somehow, and maybe he'll able to continue being with his boyfriend while being with Marian because she needs the money as well. I'm not really sure what's happening there. But if he is bisexual and he's and he's falling in love with Marian, I really hope that we don't go down the troublesome bisexual road, which is all that we see in media, which is all about how bisexuals are always cheaters and they can't be loyal. I really hope that this narrative doesn't go down that route. But let's see what happens. So Oscar's friend, Mr. Adam, he ends up meeting Marian as well, and yeah, he is not interested in Marian at all. So the cook is very, very worried because Berta wants him to prepare food for at least 200 guests, and he's like, well, all of this requires proper planning. I'm not really sure if I'll be able to do this, but he needs to do this. And Miss Turner is like, you know what? Berta has created a castle, and she's inviting people that will never accept her or come to her castle. And her former employer would have seen through Berta in a second. And yeah, the guy over here, again, the same guy who helps Mr. Russell with his clothes and everything, he's like, Miss Turner, why are you why are you like that whenever Mrs. Russell is concerned? And she's like, you know what, I used to work for a very rich lady, she was from a legacy. And yeah, it's Miss Turner has her issues, and I guess she doesn't want to continue being a maid for her all her life, but I guess she's going about it the wrong way. I think she wants to take Mrs. Russell off the board, and she wants to be close to Mr. Russell, which I'm not really sure if that's possible. So Mr. Russell goes in to talk to his wife, and yeah, he's like excited. She's like, yep, excited. I really hope it all works out. And he's like, yeah, I hope that too. And this is where he ends up talking to Berta about how he realizes what she has wanted, and that she has come a long way. And Berta is like, but that's the issue. I'm not satisfied with coming a long way. I want to go all the way. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what her past was like. So Marian is just looking at the preparations for the party going on in the house across them, and yeah, she's like, I want to go, but Agnes has forbidden it, and even you too, Ada. And Ada's like, no, I'm not like Agnes, Marian. If it were up to me, I would have liked you to go. And this is also where Ada tells Marian to give Agnes a chance, because Agnes hasn't had a very satisfying life or a happy life. She has gone through a lot in order to provide for herself and for her sister. And after Marian's father ended up wasting all of their money, Agnes just had to marry Van Rhijn, and Mr. Van Rhijn was the type of person that you would like to be alone with. And Ada is like, you know what, you need to cut your aunt some slack. So yeah, the person is helping Mr. Russell with the clothes, and I guess he's very loyal to him. And at first I was like, are these two hooking up? Are these two having an affair? But I guess not, because one of the because I guess Miss Turner was the one who was talking about whether or not this guy has any secrets, and he's like, I don't have any secrets, which I'm like, yeah, he probably has secrets. So it's time for the party, and Bertha wants Gladys to go up into her room. She's not invited because she wants to properly introduce her by throwing a proper ball so that she can be out. And but yeah, Larry and Mr. Russell are like, well, give her a chance. She is old enough, so allow her to be at the party at her own house at least. And Bertha is like, okay, okay, go and get ready. So Miriam decides to go over to. Oh, I think I missed that scene. Huh. I think it was over here. After Ada was done talking to Miriam, this is where Peggy came in, and Peggy was like, "You know what? I can help you. I can help you go and visit the party without your aunts knowing, and I'll leave the downstairs door unlocked for you." And Miriam was like, "Okay, okay, I appreciate it." So it's time for her to go there, and I think Ada knows. Ada knows that Miriam is going to go to the party, and she doesn't stop her. And Miriam lies about having a headache and wanting to lay down sooner. After she's gone, Agnes is like, you know what? Whenever she talks, it reminds me of Henry, always challenging me and all of that stuff. And Ada is like, you know what? I think the house needed something new. She has an energy. She has ideas and all of that stuff. And Agnes is like, well, revolutions were started by people with a lot of energy. And Ada is like, just give her a chance. Just give her a chance. So Miriam ends up meeting Bertha, and Bertha is like, "Where are your aunts? They couldn't." Yeah, Miriam is like, "They couldn't make it," and Bertha is like, "Well, at least you're made of sterner stuff." And then Larry and Marian meet again, and they hit it off, and they're being very friendly with each other. And Marian is like, "It looks like I ended up arriving quite early." And Larry is like, "Well, you weren't early. It's just that a whole lot of people, basically almost everyone, decided not to show up." And yeah, seeing the house this empty, it made me sad for Bertha. So Miss Fane, who runs the charity organization, she arrives, and yeah, this is where Bertha and Miss Fane talk about how Miss Fane is only here for the money that she hopes to get from the Russells in order for the charity that she's running. And Bertha is like, you know what? I know why you're here, Miss Fane. I know why you're here. So don't feel that you have to linger. Yeah, Bertha is angry. She has lost it, and Larry is like, well, it looks like my mother ended up quarreling with someone else. And Marian is like, you know what, I can't stay here long either, so I have to go. And Larry tells Marian that they should continue being friends, and Marian excuses herself. She's like, Bertha, Mrs. Russell, I have to go. Thank you for involving me in this. And Bertha's like, involving you in what exactly? Yeah, she is being cold, and Marian just leaves. And Mr. Russell is like, you know what, Bertha, you shouldn't be angry at her, because even though her aunts forbade her from coming, she still came. So at least appreciate that. And Bertha is like, but why am I the enemy? Why do I have to be the enemy? And Mr. White tells Bertha that it's because you're the new thing. The old guard is afraid that they're going to be replaced. You are the future. So of course they were going to look at you as the enemy. So as Miriam is leaving, she ends up running into Miss Fane, and Miss Fane is like, you know what? We came here for our own reasons, and I'll see you later, Miriam. And Miriam is like, yeah. And she's like, also don't tell my aunts that I was here. And Miss Fane is like, yeah, I won't. So Miriam comes back, and she's like, yeah, I came back. I'm feeling better right now. So yeah, I'm here. And this is where Agnes tells Miriam that, you know what, we have decided to start giving you an allowance. It won't be much, but it will give you a bit of independence. And Miriam is like, you didn't have to do that. You already bought me a whole lot of clothes. And Agnes is like, hush, hush. No nonsense, please. And she walks off. And Miriam is like, you know what, Aunt Ada, I can't accept Miss Aunt Agnes's money because I refuse to stay in her confines for any longer. And Ada is like, just give her a chance. It's not about confines. She has been through a lot, and we like you. It's just a little allowance, and you are free to do what you need to do. And this is where Ada also tells Miriam that the last thing, that the only thing that I ask of you is that always allow your moral compass to guide your path and never go against your morals. And Miriam is like, oh, that's very wise of you, Aunt Ada. And Aunt Ada is like, well, don't sound that surprised. So yeah, Ada, even though she kind of comes across as a bit kooky, one can say, I guess she has certain nuggets of wisdom to share with her niece and other people when the time comes. So yeah, the party is a failure. There's a whole lot of food that has gone uneaten, and yeah, Berta is like, ask one of the ask the people to back it up, and one of the charity people can take all of this food away in the morning. And yeah, I felt bad. I really felt bad for Ada. And of course, the worker, the help is talking about the failure of the party as well. Miss Turner is unhappy. She's like, yep, I told you that this was going to happen. I told you, Bertha, Mrs. Russell is a failure. And she will never be the type of woman that she wishes to be. And this is where the person again asks her, well, what about Mr. Russell? Is he a failure too? And Miss Turner doesn't answer him. So Peggy decides to come over to Miriam's room to talk to her, and Miriam is like, yeah, I'll stay here as long as Aunt Agnes wants me to stay, but I refuse to live in her confines. I have to do something with my life. I need to do something. And she asks Peggy what she hopes to do, and Peggy is like, well, I'll stay here, continue working with with your Aunt Agnes as secretary. And it will also give me time to write short stories and articles and maybe even a novel. And Miriam is like, that's very ambitious of you. Other female authors do exist. And Miriam is like, well, yeah, they do, but none of them basically look like me. So yeah, again, race issues. So I really hope that Peggy ends up having a novel published, or at least start with some articles. And yeah, Miriam is very impressed by how ambitious Peggy is, and she's like, you know what, you have this talent inside of you, and you need to express it, Peggy. However, when it comes to me, I don't have any talent. Basically, that's wanting to overflow. I just want to be helpful. I just want there something to do, something for me to do in my life. So I guess she's going to continue with her charity work. And yeah, these two are being friends, and I'm okay with it. And I really hope that they do continue being friends. So we cut to Oscar, and he is in this house, and it turns out that his roommate is actually his boyfriend, Mr. Adam. And I guess Mr. Adam and Oscar have a thing for each other, and they kiss, and they hook up. And again, I really hope that this narrative doesn't go down the problematic bisexual route. But let's see what happens. Then we cut to Miriam, and she has started her writing, which good for her. And then we cut to these two sisters. I think her name was Caroline Esther. So she ends up going to go and meet with her mother, while the elder sister, she is basically into diplomatic stuff and all of that stuff. She is a busy woman. So Caroline and Miss Esther are talking to each other, and what was it? Yeah, she mentions the party that the Russells were throwing, and that they could whether or not Caroline should have attended if she was able to. And Miss Esther is like, no, never. There's no reason for us to be friendly with the Russells, because right now Mrs. Esther is basically a very, very influential and powerful woman. And then we cut to a scene where Mr. Russell has come in to check on her on his wife, and she is crying because the party was a failure. And she's like, you know what? But don't get it twisted. I'm not defeated yet. I will show them that they need to respect me, and I will show them that they actually want me in their life. And Mr. Russell is like, you know what? Failure isn't your color, dear. So have at it. And this is where the episode ends. As I said, it was a long episode. It was enjoyable. I'm not really sure if this show is going to be as popular as the Downton Abbey series, but let's see. Because when it comes to the aristocracy, there's just some or posh people, posh rich people. There's just something about British poshness that excites the general audience, in my opinion, especially when compared to the poshness that's shown in American culture. But let's see if this show ends up being as big as Downton Abbey or not. Let's see. Anyway, feel free to share your thoughts of about the episode down in the comment section below. And if I end up doing a written review of this for the Geek Theory, the link to that will be down in the comment section as well as soon as the review is published. So yeah, let me know what you thought. And until next time, stay happy, stay safe, stay blessed. See you guys later. Bye.